And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. My name is David Steele. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and did a lot of really cool things. Maybe went to see a movie or whatever it was. So, um, yeah, there's really not a lot to talk about today. Anybody who read the tease knows what it is. So I was only going to do one story, but there were a couple of those stories I thought that were noteworthy. Um, Nonetheless, so this is going to be a little bit of a shortened show. Only going to be three instead of four stories, but later on this afternoon, and I know I've been saying it every time at the end of the shows, I'm actually going to sit down, and today you guys are going to be getting, if you join me live, okay, you guys are going to be able to um, watch my Mob Mondays and uh, um, rewatch Wednesdays stream. So hey, Dad, how are you? So yeah, if you, I think that's going to come around right around 2 o'clock, 2:30 ish. I'm not too sure. I got to get everything settled, but it's going to be like back to back. So I mean, I'll tweet it out and everything else. But that if you want to see it for free, okay, come join me then. And if not, you guys can get support me there. Anyways, let's jump right into it. So our first story basically is it's going to be about the box office and what happened this last weekend and everything else. So, as everybody may or may not have known, there was a little movie that came out this last 2 weekends ago, and it was The Flash. And so, I know, guys, you guys are tired of talking about The Flash and hearing about The Flash. I get it. But the reason I bring this up is because here's the thing, this was one of the more significant drops of the year. Okay. We had something like 66% for Ant Man. We kind of had, Shazam didn't do so well. This fell off a cliff. This movie fell off a cliff. So, as anybody knows, okay, and everybody knows by now, one way or the other, this was about a $200 to $220 million budget, and it had been years and years and years in the making. The hype was up and up and up. And CinemaCon, it came out and it was really positive reviews and everything else. And it came out and it fell flat. I mean, it just fell flat, and it only made $55 million opening weekend. And you say, well, why is that significant? It's significant in a couple of different ways. Okay, number one, okay, because this was such a big budget. Okay. Number two, because this was so highly hyped up and widely wanted to be seen. And number three, frankly, it was a superhero film. Okay. I mean, take the Ezra Miller situation out of it. You had Michael Keaton coming back. I mean, this is Batman for everybody. I mean, this is he is the Batman. This is I'm not talking about Adam West in 1966. This is Batman. And so he's coming back. And so, you got the whole multiverse thing going on. And it only made $55 million. The reason I say that is because this last weekend, it fell an enormous, whopping, unbelievable 73%. That's insane. So put this in perspective, okay? Two things. Number one, Ant-Man and the Wasp, when it came out in March, or February or March, okay, it made $108 million opening weekend. And then its second weekend, it made around $35 million. That was a 66% drop. That was the second largest for Marvel of all time. Okay. Number two, this was the biggest drop. So there have been a couple of the big drops. You had Black Adam that dropped 59%, and then you had Shazam Fury of the Gods that had dropped the other. Anyways, I want to basically get to the article real quick. So Antonio says, this is sad for me. I love this movie so much, and seeing it falling down a cliff is such a shame, especially since it's finale of the DCEU and you have Michael Keaton return. Yeah, I mean there were a couple of things in it that just the film. I mean, truth be told, when I came out of the film, and I did not like this movie at all. I mean, I've kind of tailored back a little bit, understanding why and everything else. And guys, if you want to go watch the Flash spoiler cast, go feel free to do that. But here's the article. This comes from the Wrap. This comes from my good friend here, Jeremy Fowler. And this talks about the box office for the weekend. Audiences are making it clear which superhero film they preferred the box office. And right now, that's Sony's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And has returned to the number one box office spot in its fourth weekend in theaters, while Warner Brothers' The Flash suffered a 72% drop, the second worst to be assumed with the DCEU. Across the Spider-Verse earned another $19.3 million this weekend, continuing its strong run as it passed $500 million in global grosses, earning this past weekend, with $317 million gross domestically. And that's huge. I'm going to get to what actually has been the top earners in a minute. In over 525 worldwide, Across the Spider-Verse is on the doorstep of passing $563.7 million globally. Of the hybrid and CGI of the Smurfs, which was Sony's largest grossing film of all time. Now, Flash, meanwhile, has collapsed from a $55 million opening to $15.3 million, suffering a second week drop of worse than Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I just made reference of, which is much more room to fall than its $106 million opening, and the 70% drop of DC's James Gunn The Suicide Squad, which came out in the early stages of COVID back in August 2021. Now, truth be told, it was COVID. That movie, for anybody who's seeing that movie, I loved that movie. And yes, was it the Guardians with DC? Absolutely. But it was well done. It hit all the notes. I mean, hell, we even got a Peacemaker series out of that, right? As noted in our box office analysis last week of the struggles of The Flash and DC's Pixar's Elemental, the DC's film suffered multiple problems, including tepid word of mouth, the deep disinterest between casual audiences in DC, and the lead star Ezra Miller's public scandal, which was unable to market. So there were a lot of things that went wrong with this film. Okay. Depending on how Sunday shakes out, and this was done the other day, The Flash could be number 4 behind No Hard Feelings, which had 15.1 at a little over 3,200 theaters. With a reported $45 million before marketing, the Jennifer Lawrence starring No Hard Feelings still has a lot to do to turn a profit, but it has that younger demographic. It's like a Porky's in the 1980s. It's like an American Pie. It's like a Superbad sort of thing. And the film actually earned a B+ on Cinema Score, 68% from the critics, 88% from the audience. Number 2 at the box office. What happened? What happened? Come on. What happened? Let's see. Number 2. Number 2 at the box office. Sorry about that, guys. So, anyways, basically, what it's going with is Elemental was number 2. Yeah, no, I had a little technical difficulty. So, essentially, Elemental was number 2. Okay. Elemental was number 2. Okay. And that earned, it earned basically around $15 million. Okay. It had a budget of, it basically opened at 28. It earned $18.5 million. Okay, so it had about a 37% drop, and it expanded to 23 new markets, earning 31 million overseas, and it's made only 121 domestic. Okay, so here's what I'm getting at. Okay, I wanted to actually bring these numbers up for Spider-Verse, because Spider-Verse is doing amazingly well. Okay. And so it's one of those things right now where I've said it before, like when one film really falters, the other one is going to pick up slack. And that's what you're seeing right now for um, Spider Verse and Elemental. And so, that being said, it's one of those things. So, right now, as it stands, okay, Spider Verse is number 3. Spider Verse is number 3 right now at the domestic box office. Okay. And that's just an incredible feat in of itself. And that just shows you the staying power of something like that. And I think that, you know, we are now in a time where it is quality over quantity. And that being said, this was a quality film. There was nothing wrong with it. Now, it's interesting because Sony Animation, I don't have it in front of me. Sony Animation just put out a statement. So I see that, Kevin, we're going to actually get to that in our next story, July's preview. I will read that in the next story, I promise. So right now, the thing is that, hey there, how are you? Nice for you to join us. So basically, right now, what has ended up happening, it is number 3 right now at the box office. Okay, behind Guardians, which is only about 35 million back. Okay, this is one of those films where we are going to start to see quality over quantity. And I think that that's a major factor in what's going to be going on and how it's going to be going. Now, truth be told, we do have another big movie coming out this weekend, and that is Indiana Jones. And so I'm going to be going to see that on Thursday. I'll give you guys the schedule near the end of the show. But basically, this is one everybody's looking forward to. Okay. And Barbie Oscar nomination? Possibly. I'll talk about that. Give me a minute, Dad, and let me just finish the story because we're going to jump right into July. And I'll definitely talk about that. But yeah, I think that this is one of those movies that has a staying power, and it's going to continue to make money. And I agree with you, Antonios, about one thing. It is sad. I never like to see films falter. I never, ever like to see films be bad. I don't, because it's not right. Because everybody worked extremely hard in this movie and did what they needed to do and everything else. And it is sad. And I wouldn't be shocked, and I don't mean to blow my own horn, but I had said that Shazam was going to be a litmus test for the Flash. And I believe the Flash is going to be a litmus test for Blue Beetle. Now, I'm not saying it's going to bomb like this, but we'll see what happens. I hope it does well because there's not a lot coming out in August. But I do think that it's going to prove to be very difficult to make money. So I don't know. I think it's going to do well. I mean, it's a character, it's a brand new character, and everybody likes that. So, anyways, guys, what do you think about the Flash dropping 73%? Do you think it's amazing? Do you think that you saw this coming? And my other question to you guys is, when do you think this is going to hit Max? I think it's going to be on there July 4th. But when do you guys think it's going to hit Max? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay. So let's just let me just put a few of these up here, and we're going to jump right into some of these comments, I promise. Okay. So, Antonius, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning will do decent. Barbie, Oppenheimer will get Oscar nominations. When comes to the box office profit, it will not make money. Yeah, I mean, I think that Oppenheimer is a awards contender. I mean that's what it is. It's a dramatic role. I wouldn't be shocked to see Clive Killian Murphy get a Oscar nomination for Best Actor because of this. Um, Mission Impossible it's going to do good. It's going to do very good, and I've laid out my plans, not plans, but I think this is going to be huge. I mean, I was watching the world premiere yesterday from a couple days ago. I was watching the behind the scenes. Tom Cruise is unbelievable. So I think that's going to have something. Barbie Oscar nomination. So I think, okay, I think that it's definitely going to get a production design. I think it's going to be tech awards. I think it's going to be production design. It might get a score nomination, um, but I don't know. I mean, cinematography maybe. I think it could sneak in a couple categories. I do because it is different, right? It's not this cut and paste type of thing, but I do think it is. I think it will definitely get a couple nominations. We'll see though. I hope that Indiana Jones does well. It deserves it. Yeah. No, I think it will do well. Do I think it'll be profitable? No. Just because of the budget. The budget was way too high for this movie. $297.4 million was way too high. So, I just don't see it for Barbie. Kevin Hussein, best film nominee. I said it last night in a space for those people that joined me. And by the way, guys, this is my Twitter handle. So I'm always doing spaces on there. I'm always in movie spaces. Come join me for that. I don't. The one I could see getting. I know it sounds crazy, and I was making a case the other night, and people didn't believe me. Is Dead Reckoning. Because it is the part one. I mean, look, Dune got actually a Best Picture nomination, right? That was a good movie, and I think that, in all honesty, if you're going to do that, if you sit back and you watch the behind the scenes featurettes of Mission Impossible and what they did and how they did, you could definitely see it. If the Blue Beetle film makes more than $100 million, it's going to be a miracle at this point. Yeah. Look, I think it'll do. I think it'll make. It's going to make at least as much as Shazam domestic. So I think it'll be fine. And speaking of, so this is a perfect lead-in. So speaking of the next story, okay. So the next story has to deal with July. So as I made mention, we have Indiana Jones coming out this week. Okay. This is all based on nothing else but nostalgia. That's it. Okay. And there's a whole other thing to it, but for what it's worth, nostalgia right now is the end thing. It is. I mean, you've got Top Gun Maverick, you've got Indiana Jones, you brought back Han Solo in The Force Awakens a few years ago. Nostalgia is the big thing. And with the technology that we have now, okay, you're able to do what is done here. Okay. So on the right, you have the current Harrison Ford, and on the left, you have a de-aged Harrison Ford. Now, they've done this in other films, like most recently, the 2019 The Irishman. So, I mean, this is not brand new technology, and it's been around a couple of years. But this is, at the end of the day, this is a time travel movie, and you're going back in time and everything else. I think this is going to be fun. I do. Like I said, is it going to turn a profit? I don't know, but I think it's going to be a fun movie. But that leads into another thing, okay? And the question is this going to? How is July going to do? I mean, that's a serious question, right? How is July going to do? Because we have all these movies. So this article here comes from Variety, and it talks about another pileup of films. Okay. At the end of last year, Flick's Brewhouse faced a dire. Hold on. Flick's Brewhouse faced a dire situation, albeit one that was unique to Texas-based movie chain. There weren't enough movies to show in August. We were going to A24 or anywhere else. Does anything have anybody to put on screens? Recalls the chief revenue officer. That's not the case this summer, as exhibitors grapple with different reality. Can back to back blockbusters succeed at once? Or can big movies cannibalize each other? And that's what we're starting to see with all these. Those are the questions as popcorn season kicks into high gear with the arrival of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is coming out this weekend. Mission Impossible, okay, the 12th. Barbie, the 21st. And Christopher Nolan. All these films carry big budgets and require outsized ticket sales to turn a profit. It's complete night and day, Randleman said. In the last 2 years, if something failed, we didn't have anything for 6 weeks. Now, if something tanks, you move on to the next one. That's the way Hollywood always works. The hope is that all these films will find audiences. However, a senior analyst at ComScore calls the month-long stretch between Indiana Jones 5 through Barbie and Oppenheimer one of the most competitive periods in most recent history. This will be a stress test for the theatrical market and the more important movie-going season of the year, he said. The stakes are incredibly high. So as far as Hollywood's attempt this year for counter-programming, which has been disastrous, audiences don't have an overwhelming desire to watch The Flash or Pixar's Elemental, but because those movies were scheduled too close to each other. Even as the box office recovers and fits and starts, there are signs that even in the pandemic era, several films can work at the same time. A prime example can be last summer's Jurassic World Dominion, which scored a mighty $145 million opening, even as Cruise's enduring hit Top Gun Maverick pulled in $51.8 million in its third weekend. Another weekend in the middle of 2022 with 4 movies. You had Elvis, Blumhouse Thriller The Black Phone, which is amazing. I love The Black Phone. In addition to Maverick and Jurassic World Dominion, each grossing $20 million in the same Friday to Sunday frame. It's a sign that the summer's newcomers can coexist beyond their opening weekends so long as ticket buyers can see them. About quality, says one owner. Everything looks good on the horizon, but if the movies aren't great, people wait a month until they're on streaming. Movie theater owners believe that the range of offerings will appeal to moviegoers of all demographics, and he's right about this. It's the right mix of movies to not only survive but thrive off one another. He's particularly high on Barbie because pre-sales at his theater have already been surging. I think it'll be one of the true breakouts of the summer. Everyone can survive. We have enough screens. So one of the theater owners says, however, they're cautiously optimistic about a potential pileup. It would have been better if they spread things out a little bit more. We have a whole summer. These movies are back to back to back in the same month. He's particularly concerned about the space between the family offerings like Ruby Gilliman, The Teenage Kraken, which opened shortly after Elemental, and Disney's Haunted Mansion, which arrives a couple weeks later. I wish it was at least another week between the kids' stuff, he said. Theaters do a lot of business with summer camps. If all of the movies come out at once, there'll be nothing left to see later on. At least Hollywood didn't forget about August, which is ripe for a sleeper hit. On the calendar is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, Rated R Strays, Meg 2, The Trench. And these movies are part of franchises as big as Mission Impossible for filmmakers as beloved as Gerwin or Nolan. But The Trench, for one, is the sequel to the 2018 disaster movie, The Meg, which grossed $530 million worldwide. Never bet against a shark movie. He's right about that. But nonetheless, I think that here's the thing. At the end of the day, okay, I think that it's going to be fascinating. And, as the guy said, it's quality over quantity. And I think the fact that you have these 2 films coming out, okay, you have Mission Impossible, which is making its debut on the 12th, and they move that up 2 days. It's going to make a lot of money coming in. It's going to have a whole weekend to itself. And I do believe, okay, and I've said this before, I do believe that the fact is that Mission Impossible, because of how big and grandiose it is going to win that second weekend. And that's going to be the weekend of Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm not saying they're both going to crash, but what I am saying is that it's going to eat into it. It's cannibalizing a little bit. And as the piece also made reference to, there are there's something there for everybody, right? I mean, you've got Mission Impossible, okay? You've got Barbie, you've got, for that crowd. You have Oppenheimer for that crowd. So I think there's something to be said there, okay? And so, I mean, you'll have another animated movie in there. So there's something for everybody. Um, I think it'll be interesting. And here's the other thing, too. This is why Tom Cruise was so upset. I know I keep going back to Cruise, but Oppenheimer is getting the PLFs. So anybody who's not familiar with what a PLF is, it's called a premium large format. It's Dolby, it's ScreenX, it's IMAX. Oppenheimer's going to be getting it for 3 weeks. That's huge. 3 weeks. So he's definitely going to eat away some of the other monies from Mission Impossible. Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny does debut prediction. So worldwide, I think it's a little high worldwide. I would probably say around 250 or 3, but I definitely think it's going to be there. I think it's going to definitely make money. Is Kathleen Kennedy's future on the line with Indy 5? I think yes, I do. I think that if she leaves, I mean, I think if this does not go well, okay, which there's a possibility it might not, okay, I think she's done. I think she's done. Now, obviously, she would not. She'd get everything in line with all the other films, but I do think that because if you look at the one thing about Kathleen Kennedy is this, and listen, she's a hell of a producer. She's a hell of a producer. I'm not going to dispute that. Okay, she has 3 or 4 billion-dollar movies under her belt. Okay, Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, even if you didn't care for it, and Last Jedi. But there was no planning there. The number of writers and directors and people that came through there, it was like a revolving door. They only, and they're trying to, capture the same magic that they had, and they're not going to be able to do that. Now that they've announced all these other movies, and I don't know. I just can't see. I could be totally wrong. But because I'll tell you right now, if this doesn't go well for her or Lucasfilms, she's going to take some heat. And I can't see her sticking around, but 300 to 400. So 350 to 400 worldwide. I think it could make 70, 80 right now, domestic opening weekend. That's just me. Mind you, I have nothing to back that up. There's just complete spitballing there. I rewatched all 4 films yesterday, and it's amazing how incredible all of them are. From the adventure aspect to the direction and their performances. So excited for Dial of Destiny, hoping for a win. Yeah. If you take a look at where this was, so the story goes, okay, that when they were doing, and I say they, it was George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And basically, Lucas had a plan. I mean, he was doing Star Wars at the time. I think he was doing Empire Strikes Back. And he was in post to that. And he said, look, Steven, I've got this great idea for this archaeologist, this adventure story, and whatever else. I can't do it. I want you to direct. But it's got to be a trilogy. And he's like, okay, no problem. So what ended up happening was he ended up doing Raiders, which was completely original. And it was incredibly good. And then at that point, what ended up happening was because Raiders was such a success, they went and said, okay, well, let's do a sequel. And he was going to do the sequel. And of course, that's 1984's Temple of Doom. And anybody who's watched, Spielberg and, a couple of featurettes, was a complete disaster. Everybody was getting malaria. The actors were getting sick. Okay. I mean, the story, they had to rewrite the story, and it was really, really dark. I mean, it was about this cult, right? And, I mean, obviously, anybody who's seen Temple of Doom, but it's about this cult. And Indiana Jones has to basically go get this rock from this cult. I mean, they were pulling, hearts out of people's chests. It was dark. The only good thing that came out of that is Stephen met Kate Capshaw and married her. That's it. And then, that's why Last Crusade was so lighthearted. You had Sean Connery in there and it was fantastic. And then, as the film went along, he got, it got more lighthearted and funny and everything else. And even Connery had his moments and it just worked. And that's, how that ended. That's where I think everybody wanted it to end. So when he came back for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's like, and then it didn't perform well. And then, of course, because it didn't perform well, when they say, "Oh yeah, guess who's coming back?" and you get here, and I'm like, "Oh God, here we go again." So I mean, yeah, and people don't really realize this, but like Temple of Doom, so the in theatrical release order, you have Raiders and Temple. Temple of Doom actually has chronologically first, so it's like Star Wars. The first, we got 4, 5, and 6, okay, but that wasn't the story. You had 1, 2, and 3 first, but he had to introduce 4, 5, and 6 first. Otherwise, people would never like, what the hell is this? And of course, the technology was better and everything else. So yeah, the Meg 2 will be interesting to see how it performs, especially since on September there's another Jason Statham movie led sequel, Expendable 4. I'm curious to see how it'll do 9 years after 3. I don't know. So don't forget too, there's another little sequel coming out September 1st. One of my top 5 most anticipated movies of the year, and that's Equalizer 3. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that. I'm all in on that. I think the Equalizer or the Expendables thing, yes, they're trying to rotate new people in, right? Like Megan Fox and everybody else. I just don't see it. I mean, it's going to do a lot. It's going to do money, but I think the window is closed. So I mean, it's going to do better. I'll say this much: it'll do better overseas than it does here domestic. Kathleen Kennedy's not going anywhere. Yeah, I mean that's remains to be seen. I think that but I guarantee you she'll definitely take credit for this if it blows up and everything else. Does Rogue One also count under the leadership of her too as a billion-dollar film? Personally, I love the sequel, so it was a great experience seeing all 3 films on the big screen along Solo and Rogue One. Yes, yeah, that was when I said 3 or 4. That was the other one. Rogue One was like I call it Star Wars 3.5, right? So I mean, it's that story that they're going to get the plans. Absolutely, that definitely does count. Solo was a bomb because I think that not only did you have Rogue One come out really recently after that, but I think it's because too there are certain characters out there that you don't need to know the backstory of. They're just like, I don't need to know the backstory of Han Solo. I don't need to see him as a younger guy. When I meet him in 1977 Star Wars, I need to know. I don't need to know his backstory. Okay, it's like the Joker. Okay, the Joker is another one of those, and there have been so many iterations of the Joker. I know, but at the same, I don't need to know where he came from. I don't know. In '89, I understand that was a different time, but I don't need to see how he became the Joker, right? But Joker, here's the thing: Joker worked because it was films that don't show origin stories. Batman getting his parents shot, Superman being on Krypton, you know, everything else like that. They work because they don't show it. That's why the Batman, for what it's worth, that's why the Batman was so successful. Because, we just had Dark Knight Rises a couple years earlier, like 5 or 6 years earlier, but I don't need to see his parents be shot. and he used references from all the other films. That's like Man of Steel. Man of Steel was a very good movie, but they didn't stay on Krypton too long. It was about 15, 20 minutes, and then the rest of it was on Earth. So, yeah, I understand what you're talking about. But yes, it does count, to answer your question. Yes, Temple of Doom is 1935, Raiders is in 36, Last Crusade 38, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls in 57, Dial of Destiny. So, yeah. So it's strange how they do all that stuff. September will be a good month for franchises. Equalizer and the Expendables, they need to take a breath for, as well as, yeah. So really, it's, and I've said this before, it used to be back 20 years ago, okay? It used to be June, July, and August. That used to be blockbuster season. Then there was a little movie called Spider-Man. And Spider-Man, yes, I'm talking about this, that Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's, that was going to come out in 2001. And then, of course, we had the tragedy happen. Okay. September 11th happened. And what ended up happening was Sony said, oh, no, we can't do that. So they waited a whole year. And then they put it out in May of 2002, and it exploded. And that was when it became May. That's when the blockbuster season started. And it went May, June, July. And August is like that if you really wanted to, that's like that month that you want to put a movie out. It's the end of the summer and see how it does. So yeah, it's one of those things where, look, this is still my favorite movie this summer, okay? And I know I keep talking about it, but I said it was on Space the other night, and I was having a conversation with somebody, and look, it's subjective, and I get that and everything else, but for what it's worth, I think personally speaking, Tom Cruise is the last movie star we have, okay, because of what he does and how he does it, and no, I mean DiCaprio is a star, no doubt in my mind, okay, but there are no more stars in Hollywood. Okay. Are there big names? Absolutely. Okay. Take a look at somebody like a Bradley Cooper or a Leonardo. Leonardo DiCaprio is a star. Truth be told, he's a star, but he's a different star. Okay. I mean, he's done, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and, all these, The Reverend, The Aviator, it runs the gamut. Tom Cruise, for the first half of his career, okay, he basically was learning. Okay. He was learning all the way from Taps to Mission Impossible. He was learning. He learned his craft. For the second half of his career, for the last 25 years, he's been doing everything. He's been producing. He's been acting. He's been, getting. It's just mind blowing. That's why I love the behind the scenes stuff for everything. So, yeah. So that's why I do that. Anyways, guys, what do you think about July's upcoming movies? Do you think that they're going to be cannibalized? Do you think that they're going to eat into each other? Or do you think there's going to be one or two definitive winners and the rest is going to be left in the dust? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to everybody. Okay, so we've got one more story coming up, and it is going to be about streaming. And streaming, as you can see right here, it is about Netflix, okay, which I'm not too keen on, but it's a necessary thing. So let me get to a couple of these comments here. September will be a good month for franchise. Okay, no, yeah. Already saw that. September is Slate, The Equalizer, The Nun, Haunted in Venice, The Creator. The only film I could see doing decent. I think The Equalizer will do well, just because it is a franchise. So, and there's a big name attached to it. And by the way, this is the only thing that's really right now. I could see The Equalizer just taking the whole slate of September. I really could, because The Creator looks interesting. I think that's a Netflix film, but that looks very interesting. But I think The Creator looks fascinating, but definitely I think that could definitely do something. The big months now, I believe, are May, June, July, October, November, and December. The first 2 months, you usually drop the bad ones, although there are some good ones like Megan or Scream. So yeah, it depends. January, February are those months that are like, yeah, those kind of like for horror almost. I mean, a lot of these films, once you start getting into like March and April, that's like pre blockbuster. Of course, May, June, July are your blockbuster months. August is like one of those middle of the roads. Once we start to hit October, November, December, okay, you're going to start to see a lot of heavier films. Okay, a lot of heavier films. So you're going to have Walker come out. You're going to have Dune 2 come out. You're going to have Killers of the Flower Moon come out. You've got the David Fincher film coming out. And you're going to see a lot of award contenders. Okay. Rarely do you see a movie like an Oppenheimer come out in July, because it is the content is heavy. It's heavy. So it's one of those things where, but I agree with you. I mean, but those last 3 months are the big ones for like dramas and everything else. So, but okay, so there's one more story. This last story is about Netflix, as you briefly just saw. And this, I don't even know what to think about Netflix anymore. I don't like them, obviously. Anybody who's watched, but this isn't about the United States Netflix. Okay, this is about Canada. So Canada, okay, has been a very good litmus test and testing ground, if you will, for the United States, and pricing and revenue and everything else. So this goes to the pricing of it and how it's going to actually be, something's going to be taken away from it. So according to the THR, Netflix scraps ad-free basic streaming plan in Canada. Netflix has quietly removed its $9.99 basic subscription option from its pricing plans for new or reconnecting customers in Canada, as it continues to redefine its overall product mix and pricing worldwide. The basic plan is no longer available for new or rejoining members. If you are currently on the basic plan, you can remain on this plan until you change your plans or cancel your account. So essentially what they're trying to do. Now, I'm going to bring this up. This is with ads. Okay, so keep that in mind. The one I'm talking about does not have, and I'll finish it and you'll understand why in a minute. A spokesperson for Netflix Canada declined direct comment on the phasing out of the basic ad-free subscription plan north of the border. And there's no indication that the end of the basic ad streaming plan in Canada will be time spread anywhere else, including the United States market. Like I said, Canada has always been a testing ground for the United States. It's just a matter of time, in my opinion, but I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. Netflix execs have signaled, most recently as they dropped plan prices around 100 international markets, that the streamer would be flexible on pricing to ensure the company's service remains accessible to various types of consumers while management looks to optimize returns. And revenue growth appears to be the goal in Canada, north of the border, scrapping the Netflix basic plan, which only allows the use of one screen per household at the time, leaving new subscribers to either choose between the standard ad tier, which is $5.99, which that's the pricing tier you see on your screen right now, or far more, or pay more than the standard plan, which is $16.49, allowing up to 2 screens concurrently. Another premium plan offers up to 4 screens in concurrent, cost $20.99. The end of the basic ad-free tier in Canada has nevertheless sparked speculation that Netflix may adopt the same move elsewhere internationally. A year ago, Netflix introduced an ad-supported streaming plan in Canada as one of its first international markets. The $5.99 plan standard ad-supported plan allows 2 concurrent screens, while the scrapped basic ad-free plan at $9.99 offers only one. Canada also became a test market for Netflix paid sharing crackdown. In April, Netflix, as part of its first quarter results shareholder earnings, said more Canadians were subscribing to the streaming platform since it began to reduce the number of paid subscribers sharing accounts. In Canada, which we believe is a reliable predictor for the United States, our paid membership base is now larger than prior to the paid sharing, and revenue growth has accelerated and is now growing faster in the United States, Netflix told investors. Okay, so here's basically the end of the thing. Okay, this is one of those things where they're just upping the prices at the end of the day. And they are trying to nickel and dime everybody for their last little thing. And as you can see here, and this, like I said, these aren't. So this is some of the these are the ad plans. Okay, they're getting rid of the $5.99, but I just wanted to bring this up. So, and it doesn't really say how many screens, but I in the article it did. So, I mean, a lot of people don't really care about number of concurrent things they can do it on. Okay. They want to know which devices they can get it on, the resolution, the video quality, and there's really not much difference, okay, besides price, okay? There's really not much difference, okay? The only difference is you can download it onto your tablet or your computer or whatever else. And then this one over here, $20.99, I'll get this picture out of the way. It's quality, okay, and it's downloads, and this is 4K and HDR, and that's like super, super, super good. But at the end of the day, this just comes down to money. I mean, I know that sounds stupid, I know, but it's the truth. And they are just trying to make more money for their investors. That's all it is. And I wouldn't be shocked to see the same plan be applied to the United States in, beginning next year. I mean, look, they've already cracked down on the passwords. Okay. I mean, you obviously, when you do something like that, you're going to see a decline and then it's going to come back up. I get that. But yeah, Netflix is just one of those companies. I will, as I've said before, I'll never pay for them. I don't care for them. And, you know, they will, of course they're going to turn around and say, well, we want to make this affordable for everybody. Of course they want to say that. Because those people that can't afford it, you know, so I wouldn't be, like I said, I wouldn't be shocked to see this thing in the next 6 months. I wouldn't be shocked to see this thing come to the United States because they're already seeing results in Canada, and they're already starting. They're thinking about introducing this into over 100 markets internationally. Why else would they? Why wouldn't they do it, right? Anyways, what do you guys think about the new pricing plans for Netflix? Do you think they're just after more money? Or do you think they need to do it? Do you think they need to, take care of their subscribers better? Or do you think that they don't care about them? They're all about the subscribers. Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay. So that was the last story of the day, but a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to be coming back here probably about an hour and a half. Let's call it 3 o'clock. So it's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to live stream the. So as I said, okay, Mob Mondays and Rewatch Wednesdays, I'm going to stream the actual things. I'm not going to do it pre-recorded. So anybody that joins me is going to be able to watch that live and see it for free. I'm not going to download it on YouTube, though. Okay. What I am going to do is I'm going to put it on Patreon. Anybody who wants to watch those particular things is going to have to head on over to Patreon. Okay. It's 1 for $5, 2 for $10. I made it very affordable for everybody. And if you want to support me in a different way, you can do it a couple different ways. You can either, as I said, head on over to Patreon, or you can hit that join button. It's very affordable. 3 tiers, $2.99, $5.99, $9.99 a month. Okay. $9.99 gets you a 1 hour private Q&A, 1 hour private session. As I said, the store. And that's, if you guys do nothing else, and I know I ask all the time, if you guys do nothing else, please hit that like and subscribe button, because that goes a long way to getting this out to everybody. The other thing too is, so a quick lineup. Show, I'm going to try and we'll do a show tomorrow and Wednesday. Thursday, Secret Invasion Thursday. Okay. Friday, Thursday I'm actually going to be going to see Indiana Jones. Okay. So there will probably be I will do Secret Invasion, but I'm not going to do a show. Okay. Friday, okay, is going to be Mission Impossible Friday. That is going to be Rogue Nation. So we've got 2 films left. We've got Rogue Nation and we've got Fallout. Okay. Saturday is going to be the spoiler cast. Okay. So Saturday, come back. I'll tweet out the time. Come back to see that. And then Sunday will be Ask Me Anything. So whenever there's a spoiler cast, the Ask Me Anything will always be on a Sunday. And yeah, that's about it. So, okay. With all that being said, do the 3 things you need to do. Be safe, be careful, and have a great rest of the day. And I will see you guys later on this afternoon for Mob Mondays and Rewatch Wednesdays. And I am David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.